Just to mention before the video starts that this is a continuation of the last episode, so just going straight into the next one. If you haven't seen the last video, check it out before checking this one out. Yeah, so this is the second part of that video. Enjoy! So next we have our NPCs which have been implemented, all of them except the mage because they still need to be, I had some paint weighting issues. There was an area that I missed, so I got to redo that little bit of section. This happens when you have a lot of bones and a lot of models to work with that I'm rigging. Sometimes I'll miss something and so I have to redo them. So the mage isn't quite done yet, but the rest are finished. If I just click on this and click on our dragon right here and go to our animator on our specific, yeah, here we go. So our specific animator, what you'll see here immediately on these guys, and these animations will be used inside of a dungeon, but they'll also be used outside, and so they're more general animations for all of them that I've set up. The ones for specifically in a dungeon I have made, but they're only on one character at the moment. So what happens here is that it's just going to an idle state to from a default state, and I always do this. I always have a default state before an idle, just to give its basic body from what it's imported in as. So that we can get our refined rotations correct if there's a mistake in the rotations for the idle or anything other. It can be hard to find the original rotation without re-importing its settings, and so that's what I have this default there for. And what happens is it's going straight into a walk and to a run and then back to an idle. This is just happening because I've not set up its triggers yet or anything when it's been told to activate. They're just there to show that it's working. So if I quickly go back into our scene and then we go to our animations, we can actually see what this looks like. So we have our idle, which is just basic movement and waiting essentially. Then we have our run, and then we have a very basic walk. And some of their body actually moves very differently to other species. So if I go into our villager, let's say, yeah, let's go into our normal villager right here, and we show the animations for this guy. So you'll see that he has a bunch of animations, and if I go into the animator itself, you'll see this right here. So this guy has been, our male villager has been set up for also outside and inside dungeons. So you'll see the basics right here. So we have our idle, walk, run. That goes from our default. We also have these extra ones which are activated from any state, which is the heavy swing, medium swing, light swing, and potion consume. And these will transition back to an idle state on potentially running and walking, depending on what they're doing. And so if I quickly show this off in here, what we got right here is, let me quickly bring this down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show it in our scene, because these are set up specifically in the dungeon itself, in our player. So if I go all the way up here to our player, so if I go all the way to our player, which is going to be spawning inside the scene, and get rid of our weird lighting issue right there, you'll see that we've got our model. Now this is the ones that are going to, these models all spawn inside the dungeon, along with the player, which is currently active at the moment, but it'll be deactivated before the dungeon starts. And we have our basic animations. So we have our default, which is our very basic state. We also have our idle, which is slightly different to the dragon and the knight, the mage. They'll all be slightly different. We also have our walk, so again slightly different. We have our run, and then we get onto our more specific in-dungeon animations that have been set up. Now to show these off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the potion hold and weapon hold, which are controlled specifically in scripts. So whatever character you equip in your character selection, will actually change where the potion hold and weapon hold is in terms of all these models. So it'll keep switching over and then resetting its position, so that there's not any weird issues. So if I just go into the spine right here and then go into our left shoulder, right shoulders, just go through all this and then check our hands, you can see that we haven't got anything right here. So nothing in our left hand and right hand, and that's because our female one has it. However, the animations haven't been set up. So what will happen is that if we were to start this, if I just start this right now, and then go back to scene. So if I press play right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into our character, and I'm actually going to set up our character's male. Right now it's on female, which is where our potion hold and weapon hold is. If I switch this to male, our potion hold and our weapon hold actually go here, so it's parented now to our hands, and it's also had its transform reset, so now it's working. Now what we can do is we can actually show what this looks like if we were to swing and consume. So first of all, the potion consume. What does this look like? Well, what it does is it does this. So that's the animation we've got at the moment for our consume. And of course it changes depending on what we've got right here. So right now it's a small potion, but if we get rid of that and then enable a medium potion, see it's a little bit bigger. And then we have our large potion, which is essentially just a massive jug is right there. And what we can do is we can just stop that as well. Now if we go to our weapons, you can see that right now, if I bring this out even more, right now we've got our throwing dagger. Now all of these weapons have been brought in from a pack, so you can actually see who this is by. It's Kicking It Studios. I'm actually gonna, they'll be in the credits of my game, just as I would put in the credits of any assets that I use that have been requested of me. I usually put them in even if they're not requested. I think Kicking Studios even didn't mind having assets in their games even if we didn't credit them, but I'm going to credit them anyway, just like I always do. And what you can see is we can show you the animation. So right now we have a light swing for smaller weapons. So if I activate this, you can see that we have a light swing, which is fairly quick. Now let's take something like a sword, which might take a medium swing. You can see it's a little bit slower, but a much wider throw. And of course other animations will be overlapping and blending with it if they're moving, but we've also got a more hip movement, a slight arm movement as well. And then of course we got the bigger movement than things like hammers, specifically like an anvil hammer, or maybe a sledgehammer kind of idea. Where is it? Warhammer, here it is. So Warhammer, which is more like a sledgehammer. If we go for like a heavy swing, so it's much more slower. And of course this other arm isn't really doing anything because it should be in a position ready to be consumed by a potion. But we have other things like the pitchfork, which is just more of a silly weapon, which is huge, and I'm actually going to make it golden because it's actually going to be just a random silly weapon. We have like things like this, we have a ton of weapons, and I don't really want to show too many, like the great sword, spear. I kind of want you to leave it up to you to discover, but we have a lot of weapons to show off. Things like the split blade are going to have like unique animations, but what I will show is one of these staffs. So the staffs all look very similar, the only difference is the colour of the crystal at the end, and they're of course going to have their own animations and effects. Okay, this video is starting to get quite long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hurry up and go straight to the XP system. Inside of our monster stats, you'll see that right here, just for the sake of testing, what I've done is that every time you kill a monster, they spit out a specific death function that's associated with whether they're inside a dungeon or not. Just for the sake of testing, I've put the experience gained from when a monster dies when they're outside of the dungeon right here, which is activating, you know, when our turret is killing them, just to show that the XP is working. However, this won't be the case. You won't be earning any XP from the turrets or anything. Like I said, it's just for defensive purposes. The XP will actually be gained from this function, which is to die from normal monsters depending on what you've killed. And all I'd do is I'd put in a specific integer right here, so a specific integer that's controlled in every monster, that's determined by what is the monster's number, and that'll determine what the XP is gained from it, maybe also calculated based on its health and things like that, and that will add into this XP right here. Now this goes to our new script, which is the character experience script. So if I go into our character experience script, you can see where our XP is. Now this is really straightforward, really simple code. I've done code like this all the time. It's similar to how you would do health, where you just add into an integer. Every time you pass a certain amount, it adds up to a baseline main integer. It's kind of similar to how I did the time management as well. So what we've got is our level, we got our basic experience, like as current experience, and then we have experience to our next level. And then of course we have our text, which shows how much we've got in the actual game. So what's happening here is we're calling this function right here to any script where we want to call it in our monsters, or whenever we want to get XP. Maybe we do some crafting, it'll call this based on the integer that we've got assigned from the other script. It'll add it, it'll call this, and it'll just add the experience added to our basic experience. And then it'll calculate if our experience goes higher than our next level or equal to it, then it'll set our experience level function right here. It'll also add a level, so +1 to our current level. So if we're level 0, we'll go to level 1, level 2, level 3. What we got then here is the set is activated, which calculates our value of our level, which is currently here, and then sets it so that we can display it again. And then we got our experience, which is determined by how much experience we got minus the next level. This is when we've gone over to the next level to see how much we got left, and then obviously we calculate how much our next level is going to be as an increase. So it's just 50 times the level plus 5 minus the level divided by 3. So this just makes it so that the next level isn't too high and too incredibly insane, and so, but does make sure that it is increasing with every level that we need. So we always need more XP each level, but it isn't too crazy. And once again, just like up here, if we have more than the next level, it just increases level, does the same thing until we're less current XP than our next level needed. This is important because otherwise you could end up with more current XP than this right here. And unfortunately what will happen is it just won't reactivate because you wouldn't have gone over it if it's gone past it. So let's just make sure that that doesn't happen. And then of course we assign that XP to our screen. So let's show it off. You can see our current level, our next level is 5, and our current XP is also 0 at the moment because we haven't done anything. 5 is pretty easy, so we should be able to get to the next level very quickly. So as we're killing this, we should get some XP once he's defeated. So there we go, we just got a bunch of XP. We're now level 2, our current XP is 6, and our next level is 105, so much higher jump. Of course the jump gets less and less increasing, but takes longer and longer as it goes up, because the monsters don't drop more XP as you level up. So it's still going to take longer and longer each time you level, but it won't be as crazy. So there we go, we just killed a little bit more, so now we're at 72 XP. Of course, right now I think we're getting 66 XP from the monsters, but this is really just for testing. It's probably going to be a lot lower than that. And ultimately, this is what I've got so far. So I need to really revamp this character selection, not just for all of the new models, but the text is just a little bit too cluttered. The selection's probably okay, but there's a lot more that needs to be changed with it, and there's a lot more details that need to be implemented. And so I'm gonna have to probably redesign this character selection screen, and the same for all of the characters as well. Now that there's an XP aspect to this and level aspect, I kind of want to change some of the crafting to include that requirement of a certain level. However, this is what I've got so far. There we go, we've just hit level 3 over here, so we just hit level 3. Our next level is 154 XP needed, and we're at 99 currently. So I think that's everything that I've got so far. Next time, hopefully, yeah, redesign of the character selection and a couple of these other UIs, and in general, hopefully looking at some of the last things that we need. So this has been ProTaleDev, and I'll see you next time.